Hello, everybody, and welcome along. My name's Kevin, and we're going to run through the Antrim Senior Football final yesterday between Cargin and Portglenone. Any of the data we're going to give you today is just in normal time. I decided to put the phone away at full time and just enjoy the extra time itself. So, look, any questions you have, you want to throw them in, feel free to do so. If you're watching this later on YouTube or anything, you can go onto our social media posts on Instagram and also Twitter and drop us a comment in there. So it's not something I often do, but I have done it just obviously for up to the match last week. Again, thank you to four men who took part in the panel, and also Curly up in the tumble down in, who kindly gave up the venue for it. It was a great night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It got good reviews onto it, and people seem to enjoy it as well. I think we're up to close to 700 watches on YouTube, which is great just to have. So, look, the game yesterday, we'll get started into it. I'm going to just run through it. Not very long. I hope it doesn't take so long. For me, some notes on it, which is like a dictionary in itself. But we're going to look at the game from a neutral point of view. And there's a lot I've seen. People were sending me links and messages this morning and last night. I think there's a lot of discontent on both sides, both in terms of what they thought of the referee, how they actually played themselves, and maybe what they thought of the opposition too. And that would tell me it's probably fair a representation of the overall game. Whenever we come to sort of throughout this, I'm going to talk just about the numbers, and you'll see that there's 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 arguments both sides that both sides are probably right. And also watching the game, I thought the referee actually had a good game. He tended to let a lot of things go, but he done it on both sides as well. So yeah, look, I think that there is probably a lot of frustration around about how the game went, but we're not going to look at that. We're going to look at the data, the numbers that go into it. So in terms of the facts of the matter, both teams will think that they can perform a lot better. And having seen both teams this year, they can perform a lot better. These teams, this game is played in July or August on a dry, warm day with the pitch solid. This would have been a 25, 30 score game. It would have been probably 14, 15, 15, 14, whatever way you want to look at it. No keeper had to make a save from what I seen. No keeper had to make a save during the game, which tells you a lot around about how a defense is set up and what opportunities actually present themselves. And then again, the last thing is both teams will actually think some decisions didn't go their way. It was again laden with mistakes. But as we go through this, we're going to look and see why that may have been. So I suppose the game it started out with the first meaningful action on it was a long kick out by Jenny, and it found its intended target, and within a matter of seconds, Tomas was through on goal and he dragged his shot wide. And at that point, Portglenone for that first kick out, they were pressing up. They went man to man and pressed up high onto Cargin, but that sort of sent alarm bells out, and they dropped off for the remainder of that half. And it worked well for them. It did work well for them. Jenny didn't have to go long at all in the first half. All of the shorts went out there, and there was no scores in the first half actually from their short kick out, which tells me that Portland's decision to drop off did serve them some purpose. I suppose Portland went three up after about 10 minutes, and it wasn't until around about the 15th minute where Cargan got two scores and brought the game back to just within a point. And throughout the game, that sort hard edged. It was a point to point to point. It was chasing going on, and it was never really much more than a point in it. Dermot McAleese gets sent off around about for a black card around about 20 odd minutes, early 20s into the game. And that's whenever sort of Cargan do go those 2 points up. No, I didn't see what happened, so I can't make a comment on the black card. I missed it as it was going on in there. But just in terms of half times, there was no pressure on Jenny's kicker. There were six shorts that went off, and they didn't really create any chances. Cargan didn't manage to get over that sort of 45 hold. The only chance that they had resulted in a wade. So it was a shot there from just outside the D that went wide. Out of their overall kickouts that they had, two of them went to Portglenone. But sorry, Cargan had 14 turnovers, only two of which were in Portglonone's own half. So there was one of them was from a kick out. The other one was a loose ball that they managed to pick up as well. There was 14 turnovers for Cargan in the first half, mostly coming from their back into their defence, and they managed to score a number of points off that. But all their traffic, all their actions seem to be down the right hand side of the pitch in the first half. And that probably goes into a couple of things. Mick McCann did get a good amount of ball on the left hand side, where Mick would usually come out, manage to pull his man out with him and pop it off for a runner coming in. Dermot McAleese put him under serious pressure. There was a lot of pressure put onto him from that. And although Mick was winning a lot of ball, Dermot, I thought, done very, very well on not diving in, not giving away frees. And I thought that battle throughout the game, I thought was brilliant, and we'll touch on that later on. I suppose in terms of Portglenone, they managed to get one short off in the first half, which was turned over. I think they initially retained it and then it was turned over in a matter of seconds later. But then they were forced to go long because Cargin, as Cargin do, press up. And on them four long kickouts, they managed to win. Portland managed to win three of them. But again, there was nothing really coming off them. They only had one shot, or sorry, one opportunity to shoot within a scoring zone. Whenever they were winning that ball in midfield, they were turned over not too further on down the pitch. So maybe about 10 yards on down before you even got into the Cargin sort of 45. In the first half, Portland managed to hit 16 turnovers themselves. And they, from the 16 turnovers, they got 3 points from it. So all their 3 points in the first half came from turnovers. The only thing difference between Cargin and Portglenone in terms of their patterns in the first half is Portglenone had a better spread. So if you think about a pitch as a top left, centre, or top right, Portglenone had a better spread of actions that were happening, where Cargin seemed to be all at the right hand side, a lot of turnovers at the right hand side. And that's probably, where Pat Shivers and stuff was stepping in on days left. So there's a lot of reasons for that. Portglenone did have a wee bit of a better spread across the middle for that. In the second half, coming out, then Cargin scored 3 points, Portglenone scored four. A complete flip on what was going on in the first half, which again shows you how even this game was throughout. Portglenone, they went a point up, Cargin replied, and then it was almost that tit for tat. Sorry, Portglenone got their point to bring it back level, and it was almost that tit for tat the whole way through, where Portglenone were chasing it right up until the end whenever they got their point to draw it. And it was almost the reverse in terms of the first half, in terms of numbers, but again, very, very close from it. Portglenone hit two short kickouts, and they won both of them, and they got both into a scoring position, which was a bit better in the first half. From the Portglenone five long kickouts that they won, or five long kickouts that Kevin Mullen hit, Portglenone won four of them, which is very, very good. They created three chances from that as well. So in the first half, where they were getting turned over pretty quick, they managed to get, whenever they were winning those long kickers, they managed to get up the pitch and get into at least scoring opportunities. They hit 10 turnovers, and they got 10 turnovers themselves in the second half, and they also hit three wides into it. Cargin going in in the second half, they hit three shorts. They got two chances from that, which means they were into scoring positions from it. They hit four long. They won one of them, which again shows Portland's almost dominance around about the middle of the pitch. But they also, from that one that they won, they got a score from it. So it shows that whenever Cargin do win long ball, they are very, very dangerous. So I can understand why teams maybe are a bit hesitant stepping off them. If they do win the ball around about midfield, you can guarantee it almost turns into a score every time. So just looking at numbers themselves, and again, folks, any questions you have, I'm going to touch on just players and stuff very soon, but I'm hoping to have this done within a few minutes. In terms of numbers, the arguments to and fro, and your messages going about, and the videos going, all that, this game as a neutral was very, very even. It was very, very evenly played out. So Cargin had 14 turnovers, 9 short and 5 long, and they won 78% of them. Portglenone had 12 turnovers, or 12 kickouts, 3 short and 9 long, and they won 83% of them, which is a good because they were winning so many of their long. And both teams only scored 1 point from their own kickout. Throughout the full game, normal time, both teams only scored 1 point throughout their kickout, which tells you this was a game of turnovers. This was a game of turnovers. 28 turnovers for Cargin and 26 turnovers for Portglenone, both coming away with 0-6. Very evenly matched onto it. Both teams had 17 shots. Both teams hit 7 scores. Cargin hit 5 wide and dropped 5 short, whereas Portglenone hit 7 wide and dropped 3 short. In the first half, there was roughly about 40 phases of play. In the second half, there was roughly 40 phases of play. There was nothing separating these teams in terms of numbers. So the idea that it's one that Cargin, almost let slip and didn't perform, and then it's one that Portglenone sort of let get away from them, they probably do add up, because depending on what spectacles you put on, pretending what lens you're looking to, you're probably right. So there's no right or wrong in it. There was very, very little in this game. It was a game laden with mistakes and errors and turnovers, but we'll go into that towards the end of it. So in terms of players, these are only my opinions, and I wouldn't know every player in the team. Like the Dermot McNichol stuff, I thought they had great games, but I was really intrigued by the McMahon Dermot McAleese sort of matchup, and I thought they both done really well. It was a great battle to watch. Thought McMahon has been dominating club football here since he was a teenager. Even whenever St. Galls were dominant, McMahon was always the player you had to watch out for, and even coming the age, I don't know, 38, 39, 40, he's still dominating that game now. And, he's just he's an out and out footballer. He knows football inside out. Not only is he the feet for it, but he also has a brain for it too, and the athleticism. But I thought Dermot McAlee's done really well on him. Although Mick was winning a good proportion of the ball, he was finding it hard to get the ball off as he intended to. And certainly whenever you watch his movement, it was there. He was getting it, but Dermot didn't dive in, give away free. He was able to stand up, and Dermot actually caught a lovely mark himself, stuck it over the bar on the right hand side, which is probably potentially the last mark we will see in Antrim club football. Think about that. Kevin McShane lined out at 6 and then Lynn lined out at 11. I know McShane didn't pick him up for the full game and Connor Johnson picked him up. I thought Lynn had a good game. I thought he got on loads of ball. He was very calm on the ball. I thought he was going forward was, a threat. I know he sort of dropped a couple short. Uh, but I think by the time he was dropping a few short, his legs and stuff were tired. But on the other hand, I thought Kevin McShane had a great game as well. I think Kevin McShane, he's usually centre half. He's usually full back for him. He playing centre half back for him yesterday, and I thought he was solid. I thought he had a great game. He got up high. He's a big physical lad. For me, he's not Antrim's solution to their issue at centre half back or full back that will allow Ewan to move out a bit. But I thought Kevin McShane had a brilliant game as well. I think he's a solid footballer. He doesn't overcomplicate things. He's not going to be a player who's running 60 yards of the ball to stick it over with the outside of the left. But he knows his job and he does his job really, really well, which is a credit to any player because so many players out there think that they can do more than what they actually can do. John McNabb, I don't know what happened. Like whenever he was in a collision, I do think he went in. He sort of played into it, but he was the one that initiated trying to drive forward, and the player sort of stopped back. And I do think the referee got that call right. I can be wrong on that, but that was my opinion in real time. But he did pick up a nasty injury, and Jesus, he didn't get up the rush back. He couldn't move effectively. This isn't a player who you can push over very easily. He's a strong boy, but whenever he got up, he stumbled. I thought he had concussion. Fellow Cargin boy was saying, "I mean, Jesus, if he's not dead, at least he has a sore head." But he sort of made his way back two nets and he was groggy and you could see him just sort of staggering back as opposed to sprinting back into it. So it was a serious collision that he had. I don't know how much it affected the rest of his game because I don't think it did. I think maybe he was sore after it, no doubt, but he was on the bus last night. I seen he'd be not worried about the only reason why I'd be taking Panadol extra this morning is for a different type of headache. But he got up for a point in the second half, and you could see him creeping up, and you were just going, McCann's going to pick him out here. Jeez, he's going right through the middle. And he stuck a ball over with the left foot, and it was brilliant to see. I think he's a great talent. I think Oisin Doherty had plenty of attention, particularly in the first half. The thing I like about Oisin is that he's not afraid to take a man on. He came in and out of the game. He wasn't his usual sort of on the ball 60-minute type performance he put in. But then whenever you're being marked by quality players that Cargin have, it's going to be difficult for anybody to do that. I have to say, Cam O'Boyle, I thought was brilliant again. I have to say that he's an old photograph of me that he keeps on threatening to push out every time I say something bad about him. But I thought not only Kevin, but the Cargin full backline had a very good game. Jurg going off injured not too long into the game, obviously impacted their game around about midfield. But Niall McKeever, I thought round about in there was solid too. I thought that Niall, whenever he came into the game, he was doing a lot of doggy work going up and down that pitch, which is hard for any big man to do. And he kept going right to the end, even whenever they were dropping balls in. It was Niall McKeever who they were looking for, and I thought he had a solid game. I think Jamie Griffin coming off. Jamie Griffin's a starter for me all day long, but don't know why he was injured or what. But if it was a stroke of master play by Roman to say actually he's not injured, but we're going to keep him for the end. I thought he had a great game whenever he come on. He actually got back. Portglenone had an overlap sort of deep into the second half of the extra time. And Jamie Griffin was able to get back and take the ball off Niall McKeever. He also was involved in a few other tackles and hold up play. And I think that the Ulster Championship comes on. I'll touch on this in a minute, but Cargin for me don't have an out and out defender to bring on, but they not necessarily need that. Jimmy, has played halfback, and if Cavan O'Boyle or Colin gets injured or anybody gets hurt in there, running around, but they're able to who drop McShane back, and Jamie would be a solid man to bring in there. Plus that Paul McCann coming back into it as well. Big Pat Shivers, his shooting boots weren't on yesterday, but he scored perhaps the point of the game out on the right hand side whenever McCann won it. He was fouled, should have been a free, but he got up and he got on with it. And Shivers stuck over a wonderful point on the left hand side, which shows the feat he does have and he does possess, but also throughout the game, he's done much more than what he's sort of done in the past in terms of having to work hard, and he shows he's not just a bear on the edge of the square. Um, so I thought he had a decent game too. But I think, both teams went out to win that game. Both teams went out to play football in that game. And yes, if you have skin in the game, you're probably going, wasn't our day, or we can do better, and we'll let Portland to it, or we'll let Cargin away with it. But the thing I liked about it is that both Ronan and John went out to win that game. Portland could have easily sat back the way St. Braid's done and tried to frustrate um, Cargin by dropping players back. But Cargin used to playing against that team. And I think it's fair credit to John because he has a lot of trust in his players. Even whenever they dropped off the kickout, they didn't drop so far back that they weren't unchallenged. They only dropped back to maybe the 45 to invite the short, and then that they could press up. And that tells me that John has great faith, even in his forward line, to make it hard for Cargin to get out. And that was evident, that was evident throughout the game. Uh, I think every player on the pitch, even the subs coming on, were 100% committed. And you could say, well, it's a county final. Why wouldn't you be? But I think that come extra time, as soon as the extra time started, players started to drop. And that isn't, usually players will get a good bit in the extra time, maybe towards the sort of last half of the second half before they start falling. But I think yesterday's conditions just pulled in every player so much. Every player worked really hard for their team as best that they could on that day. And you could see players dropping over and over again. Big Pat Chippers had to go off with, I hope it's only a cramp, but there's players just simply couldn't go on because they give that much, and I think that's credit to both teams. This game isn't played in July or August, as I said. If it is, there'd be no doubt it would be a much more higher scoring game. But the thing I liked about it was that there was 80 phases of play, at least 80 phases of play in this game. You break that down over 60 minutes, you're talking that the average phase of play is about 40, 45 seconds long. There was only one phase of play that I remember that lasted beyond 90 seconds, beyond 2 minutes, and that's around about the 50 odd minute mark, 54-minute mark, whenever Cargan had possession of the ball and they kept it for so long, so long. Pat Shivers actually won a long kick out, and by the time the phase of play came over round, it was a free given away, and Pat Shivers stuck it over. But there was only him in that game yesterday whereby there was no pressure applied, or it was a prolonged period of time. And it was a game, there's 54 turnovers in the game. Normal time, there was 54 turnovers. There was, what I say, 17 quick maths, 34 shots in the game. Both teams had 41% conversion. They can't achieve much better. They'll want to be up around about that 60% mark. They'll want to maybe break the 20 shot mark that's going on in there. But I still think that both teams, on the day, done as best as they could given the conditions were there. And you can say we were making mistakes, but a lot of that came from the pressure being applied by both teams. Whenever Cargan had the ball, there was 2 and 3 and 4 Portglenone men around them. And likewise, whenever Portglenone had the ball, there was no half yards. There was tackles being made in the half forward line, midfield line, the whole way back. So people who come away from that game saying the quality wasn't there, I think we have to ask the question, what is it we want? There's all these routes coming in with the FRC and Jim Gavin. There's talk. I think they're almost set up to fail straight away, despite the work that the panel have done, because we don't know what we want as fans and supporters of Gaelic football. You watch a game on Saturday night with Newbridge and Maherfelt, and it was a horrible game to watch. Phases of play lasting 90 seconds, 2 minutes, very few tackles. Load me that the I made a man was texting me saying that the Newbridge keeper who was on a lot of ball, he'd be up in the Derry team, and he done very well, but he was completely unchallenged. At no point, bar one phase of play yesterday, was any player unchallenged. Yes, the sort of the end product, the scores, they weren't high. It was a low scoring game, but we're in the middle of October. It was a very soft pitch. I wasn't playing on, but I walked up after, and it seemed to be very soft, and that would have played into it as well. For me, there's no other two teams in Antrim could have put on that performance history. Other teams would have sat back and dropped back and played 15 behind the ball. We don't want to see that in Gaelic football. You admit it sitting here now. You're saying you don't want to see that in Gaelic football. But at the same time, whenever you're pressing up and there's turnovers happening, and yes, again, that maybe shot selection wasn't the best at the end, but or the shot conversion wasn't the best in the end. But we're talking about, I see some people are the wrong shooters on the ball. You can't say the wrong shooters are on the ball and at the same time say, well, coaches are coaching out of the game by saying that they restricting people to shoot. We have so many black and white issues going on. We're arguing black's black and then we're arguing white's white, and we're just don't know where we're going with that. I suppose Right, just to sum it up, will Portglenone be back? I think that's the chat. I don't know. I mean, there's no way you know what's going to happen, but they will regroup and go again. As Jim McGuinness says, it's not about next year; it's about this year. God knows what happens in the next 12 months, whether we're here or not. You don't know. But Cargin now move on to Ulster. I do hope Portland come back and they'll get back stronger again. But Cargin move into Ulster and they will do. They have a bit of a rest cover now, and that game will stand in good stead. They'll make either the winners of Donegal or Tyrone. Here we're playing that. They will have a bit more time to get players back into it, and they will come good again. But my biggest learning from history has to be Antrim football can be good, can be competitive. I went to junior football this year. I went to intermediate football this year. I'm not attached to a club, so I'll move about. If there's a decent game on, I'll go and watch it. I was up watching St. Teresa's in Lisburn this year, and that I was watching Wolf Tones and ODs. That's just the type of if there's a game on, I'll go and see it. And why I do that is to see what's going on. There's an opportunity here, but not. When you seen yesterday, it was a packed house. How many thousands of people were? I'm not sure. 2.5, 3,000 people. It was absolutely ram packed. Yes, it's championship. I know that. There was a lot of neutrals there as well. People who would go and watch football just to see it. Antrim have a brilliant opportunity here of making our leagues more competitive, increasing the quality that we're going to see, and that will get people out. Going to watch St John's and Ballymena, which is my first game I watched this year, at the start of August or start of March, was horrendous. There was nobody in the stands. I don't even think they had shirts on. There was just nobody at it, and the quality of the game was poor. But yesterday shows that if we get our structures right, we can have good, quality, competitive, physical games. And what happens there is people who are doing these structures and stuff at the minute do the right thing. Don't leave it 3 years to see how it goes. Break it down now. Have a winter whereby next year we have 4 divisions: 1, 2, 3, 4. We have intermediate, or we have senior football with 8 teams, intermediate football with 8 teams, junior A and junior B. And I think that even if you think about, and I know people are not like to say this because the egos and everybody wants to stay in the top table. I know that. But you have Moneyglass, Aldergrove, St Enda's down in the intermediate next year. St Teresa's and St Paul's are going to get absolutely hammered next year in championship. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry I haven't offended anybody on that. But you put St Teresa's or St Paul's in against Portglenone or Cargin, there's a 15, 20 point difference in straight away. Even more than that. You put those 2 teams in with St John's or Rosa, there's going to be a 10 point difference in them. We have 4 divisions. There's 4 divisions there. Make use of them. We will get people going along to watch games in the league. 8, 12, 16 teams, whatever, or 16 games, whatever it is in the league. Make them competitive. Break it down right, and we can be competitive not only at senior football, but moving into intermediate football. In Ulster, we can be competitive as well. Junior football, whatever it is, we haven't been competitive in that in years. Do the right thing, change it up, and go for 8 teams and make it worthwhile. That's how you drive standards. That's how you drive improvement in Antrim. Look, to both teams, thank you very much. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the game very much. Best of luck to Cargin in Ulster Championship. Enjoy your Championship Mondays, whatever's going on. For Portglenone, unlucky lads. Hope to see us back again next year. Regroup. We have a good guy in there, and John. And I don't think you could have done an awful lot more yesterday. Conditions. Just get everything as did Cargin, and fair play to both teams and also both clubs.